Hi, welcome to my craft room. I'm Carol Gatton, and today we're going to be critiquing a card that Lynn in Lansing, Michigan sent to me, oh gosh, about 4 years ago. Lynn is the person that taught me how to rubber stamp about 15 years ago. I can't believe it's been that long. Critiquing her card. Let's get started. You're probably looking at this and wondering, I haven't seen a punch or a die cut in that shape. I'm going to teach you today just how to take a plain piece of paper and make it into any rectangle or square that you would like. First of all, we have to determine the size. So I measured this from across the base, from side to side and up and down, and I came up with 2.5 by 3. And we're going to make a grid. And I've already kind of started that. That would be, for it to be 2.5 cut out here, it would be 3/4 on each side, the top 7/8, and then the remainder at the base. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Here's my 3/4 mark right here. And what I want to do is I want to go beyond that mark so I can see it really, really well. Okay, so now I am taking this to the 3/4 of an inch, and not only am I checking here on my cut edge, I also want to look at both ends. And then I'm taking a lead pencil and I am going over this 2 or 3 times because you really want this to show up. Now I have 3 of my lines made, and now how to do this bottom portion. We want this to be 3 inches in depth. So I am going to put my 3-inch mark here on the line that I have already drawn, and that measures 3 inches right there. So now I am just going to make a mark, and I will take my ruler and I will go across this from side to side. You want to make sure when you're doing these lines that you go all the way from cut edge to cut edge, and that's on both sides and on the bottom and top. Your ruler is clear, and so you'll be able to see those marks. Lift up your blade, and I'm going to tell you the key that will help you to have total success with this. Butt this up to the top portion, line this up in your groove with that line that you've just created, and now this is the key. With your blade, you do not want to start on the corners, on your intersections. You want to start in the middle of that cardstock. Now, if this hasn't released, you would simply take your snippers and you would just snip those edges, but mine came out. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to put marks in the center of these. So this is 2.5. Half of 2.5 is 1 1/4. I'm going to do that at the top and at the bottom. 1 1/4 for this. Now, turning it around, this is 3, so half of that would be 1 1/2. Remember, this is your wrong side, so it's not going to show. This is the large oval punch. Go in and center this. You don't want to cut away a large portion of this. Can you see that okay? Next, we are going to brayer on this. We're going to be using heat and stick. If y'all ever used that before, this is our embossing folder, and you will notice with Stampin' Up's embossing folders that one portion is a little bit larger than the other. The one that is a little bit smaller is where we're going to be brayering. I'm going to start here at the crease and bring it down. And I'm not going to go quite as thoroughly as I would if I were trying to have a completely glittered area. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. This does work that it will be perfect. But I want mine to look a little more spooky. Okay, this has our embossing, our Versamark on it. And this is my right side. So the right side is going to go here. The wrong side of my cardstock is going up here. But I find it easier to line this up, looking at your top, your bottom, and both of your sides to have that completely aligned. And then this part that has the Versamark, bring it up onto the front portion of your cardstock. Voila. Now the big shot. Boy, if you don't have one of these, this thing is awesome. And when you're working with a big shot, you're going to be sandwiching. This is our main platform, and we're going to use tab 1 for this. Place this in. Okay, next. Now this has kind of a, you can see kind of a little shiny surface. That is your Versamark. Now I'm going to take the heat and stick, and oh, this is a product that is wonderful to work with. And I am going to cover the side. And it looks like I'm being very generous because I can put all this right back into my container. Try to keep your fingers off of the front of this cardstock. I am ready to heat this. Your heat tool is just like turning on your oven. You need to preheat it a little bit. And now you will notice that this is white. And as soon as this white disappears, you're going to see a slight sheen. That means it has melted. This is a gluey substance that will make the glitter or flocking stick to your cardstock. Since you have that, you're all set. Now glitter. Now we will heat this again. And what this does is it warms up the heat and stick, which is a gluey substance, and causes that glitter to adhere to your cardstock. Pretty awesome stuff to work with, and you can see how easy it is. And that's all there is to it. It's not like embossing. Now you look at this and you think, what a mess, Carol. It looks like it has a white film all over it, but that's the way glitter looks. But when you take your hand and wipe across that, isn't that amazing? That now changes and it wipes off that excess glitter. I'm going a step beyond that though. I'm going to take a baby wipe and I am simply going to swipe over this so as to really pick up any excess glitter that's on there, because like I said, with my image that this is accenting, I don't want as much glitter as if I had a really clear amount of Versamark on there. This is the House of Haunts Tango, and because this is a solid image, I am going to use my Stamp-A-Magia with, because I really want this to be nice and bright. So I'm using StazOn ink, which is a pigment, which is a permanent ink. That's why you need to use a special cleaner to clean your rubber stamps with, and Stampin' Up! Does sell that. But before I do that, I'm going to take this and I'm going to use a little bit of Dotto And I am going to take this panel and put a little bit of that on there so that I know exactly where to stamp. Tangerine. Okay, so I'm going to connect that. The beauty of Dado is it's not permanent, so I can remove that off of there. With the Stamp-A-Majig, this is a clear image sheet, and this side is slick. This side has a grid to it. This side you'd use the pigment ink, this side the dye. You want to butt that up in the arm along the side of the base. Take your stamp and slide it down. Now this is not going to be very good coverage. Don't worry about it. This is a slick surface, so because of that, it's not going to be as clear as it would be when you stamp it onto your cardstock. But the beauty of this is I can use this to align up exactly where I want this positioned. I'm going to put my arm along that image sheet so that it's perfectly aligned. I'm going to stamp this, and I'm doing a really thorough job. But we're going to stamp this twice. So I will remove my image sheet, take my stamp, slide it down the side of this arm, making sure that it's butted up with that. I'm not removing that arm yet because I'm going to stamp it a second time. Now I will re-ink it. And I like to move my stamp around so that I'm sure I've got it thoroughly inked. And once again, butt it up with the side of that arm. And now I can remove that, and I'm going to put some pressure onto that. And voila! Let's see how it did. Wonderful. Put that up there. You want to clean that right away because that StazOn ink will discolor your inks. It is not permanent, but it will discolor it if you don't clean it right away. You want to use your StazOn cleaner for that. Okay, I'm going to remove this. Now that's why we use the Dado. So I can now, I'm going to rub off that any of that Dado that's on my cardstock. I don't want it to interfere with my sponging. I'm going to use the So Saffron. I'm taking my wedge of my sponge and I'm inking that up. And what I want to do is I want to kind of ball that up like so. And I am going to just dab that on. I'm just dabbing that around that moon. That Tangerine Tango is a very strong color, and I want that to give a full image of a full moon. Okay, so I'm going to just heat that up for just a second to dry that. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm trying to stay away from the top peaks of my haunted house, but it is going to cover a little bit of that. Don't worry about that. Now here is my Daffodil Delight, but first I'm going to rub this in a little bit, and I'm going to let that dry for just a second, and I'm going to go to the Concord Crush, getting a different sponge, and we're going down here to our gravesite. Oh, you know what I forgot to do is I want to add a little bit of this down here on my tombstones, just to highlight those slightly. Now taking my Concord Crush, and I am going to work around this gravesite and work my way up to the porch area. I want it a little bit darker where that porch area is. So I'm darkening that up and just give that eerie look. And I'm also going to put a little bit of that on my house. Now I am going to take my sponge once again, getting some more of that Daffodil Delight, and I'm going to go in and lighten those windows. And now I'm working that Daffodil Delight into the So Saffron, and I'm working it out. Next, I am ready for my ghost in the window. I'm taking my white gel pen and I'm going to just make the shape of a ghost. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to, right after doing that, and I'm just lightly touching it. Don't press down too hard at the beginning, because I want that white gel pen to not quite be so strong of a color. I'm now coming to my haunted house, to the door, and I'm doing the same thing. And I'm going to take my finger and just place on there. Can you see how I'm picking up some of that ink? Because I don't want it to be quite so strong. Okay, what do you think? We've got to distress this. Let's take our Concord Crush and let's go around the edges. What I'd already done is I've stamped our verse with our large decorative label. And this Concord Crush, I really like the depth that it gives to this. And it's not as strong as a black. It's always kind of nice to have something a little bit different. And then I'm going to take the Tangerine Tango, and because I'm using the pumpkin cardstock for this, because I wanted some variation of color, I'm now going to rub and come in at my sides, but I do not want to cover up all of that pumpkin. I just want there to be some variation of color going on here. And the dimensionals, I'm going to add just a couple of more of those to this. Okay, cool. And remember, the larger portion is our bottom. And I am going to position this, line this up, and voila. And the verse, I stamped that in the StazOn as well. I love the crispness of that ink. Okay, and now we're going to put one more dimensional into the corner that is going to be onto the card base. So that would be right here. Pinch that up and it lifts. And I love this glue, the Tombow multi-purpose. This has two portions to it. We're going to use that bottom portion because it gives just a real nice glide of glue that we're looking for. The secret with this glue is use a little, but you want to use a strong adhesive with this because of all this glitter. It is not going to stick if you use something that doesn't have a little bit of stickiness to it. Okay, and I think I'll bring that down just a titch. I don't want to cover up those tombstones. And what do you think, everybody? Thank you so much.